Hey, Woo Crew. I am Dr. Ellen. That's what I've been going by these days. Sorry, that's my pup. She's just going to be a little barky. So I just wanted to hop on here and follow up about my comment earlier about the book How God Changes Your Brain. I have a degree in physiology and neurobiology, and my doctoral degree is actually in physical therapy. So I get really nerdy about this stuff. Like when I was a little girl, I used to we used to go to the Museum of Science. I grew up in Boston, so we have this big Museum of Science. And like when I was a little girl, I used to be obsessed with the brain room, and like I never wanted to leave this room where it was just a bunch of like brains floating in jars of formaldehyde, and all the other little girls thought I was super weird and creepy. But I like brains. I think it's fascinating how that's where conscious thought arises, and like it's just blows me away. So I wanted to take a moment and discuss that quote that I put in here earlier. Sorry for the barking. So basically, the book is called How God Changes Your Brain. It's a really good book if you're into nerdy neurobiology stuff. So I read it like last year, and it was fascinating. So one of the things that, the quote is that contemplating God actually reduces stress, which in turn prevents the deterioration of the brain's dendrites and increases neuroplasticity. So basically, in your brain, you have neurons, which are the cells that, shoot the signals, and then you have dendrites, which are like the supporting environment. So they're finding more, like the body of research is going crazy about how important dendrites are in brain function and in brain diseases, and having healthy dendrites is crucial to preventing disease. So basically, like, I made an analogy in the group earlier about sort of like thinking about your intentions as like you are planting a seed, and you don't want to sit there and poke around at the soil because you are disrupting the natural growth. And I think we are all programmed for that type of natural growth. And to further this analogy, it's like our dendrites are like the soil. So we are like the seeds, we are like the plants. Our dendrites in our brain are like the soil. So we have to nourish them because they are the supporting environment. They are the soil, and they do need, the dendrites need certain nutrients, and they need certain, properties in order for them to be efficient at their job of helping you grow and helping helping the plant grow. So, and in this analogy, it's like for a seed to grow, you need the seed, you need the soil, and you need light. And our thoughts are like the light. And I love that analogy because number one, it's like, the light, like we're all in here because we like woo stuff. So like the light analogy all makes sense. Our thoughts are like the light. We need positive, healthy, happy thoughts to give our brain the adequate light that it needs. So just to keep going down this analogy with the dendrites needing certain nutrients, like it's kind of like, it's not just nutrients as in the food we eat. And yes, those things are important. We need DHEA, we need omega-3s, we need, they're finding all kinds of different nutritious, supplements that we need in order for our brains to be healthy. Contrarily, we also know that there are certain substances that are damaging to our brain cells. Alcohol, for one, if you overconsume regularly, you really do have, some certain effects of that. Your memory starts to go earlier. There's a lot of evidence linking alcohol to poor brain function as well as diseases in the brain. So it's like you want to be feeding your brain, not just like eating and consuming proper nutrients, but, it's also like feeding your brain proper hormones. If you are constantly under stress and your cortisol level is super high, then your sympathetic nervous system is always on high alert. You have something called like a high autonomic load. High allostatic load. Sorry, getting nerdy. Anyways, if you're constantly feeding your brain stress hormones and you're constantly in that state of stress, then then again, your brain isn't getting the proper nutrients that it needs because it's not in that healthy soil. Those dendrites aren't getting those nutrients that they need. And same goes with like free radicals. Like, that's just like free radicals damage our DNA, and free radicals come to play when we, are digesting certain things, or we have exposure to certain chemicals or toxins or whatever, when we get more free radicals. And that's why antioxidants are important, because they prevent free radicals. They prevent DNA from getting damaged. So like, you want to be feeding yourself and your brain the proper nutrients to, keep these dendrites healthy and to keep them, functioning optimally to support your neuronal growth, to support neuroplasticity, which neuroplasticity is the idea that your brain is constantly changing. Your brain you may have thought patterns that are pretty deep and pretty entrenched, but you can always change the wiring of your brain. It's fantastic. Like, it's incredible to see this in stroke survivors, how they kind of regain function of things if their brains are a little more neuroplastic. And keeping your brain healthy with all those other things that we talked about really helps to support that neuroplasticity. And, so also like, it's not just like eating foods that will keep your brain like, keep it in a nutritious state, because actually fasting has some positive effects on your brain as well. But, I'll leave that one for you guys to research or figure out. But it's not just that you need to be eating proper nutrients, because it's just that you need to be giving your brain a proper chemical environment. And like, sleep is super important for your brain health too. You need to be getting adequate sleep, or else your brain starts to lose function. So, I had a little nap today and I woke up feeling like $1 million. It's like, you are supporting your new connections in your sleep. You're supporting the things that you learn in your sleep. You're like solidifying new information when you sleep. So it's like feeding those dendrites, keeping that soil healthy, keeping it fertilized with all of these proper things can help you just kind of rewire your brain. So that's my nerdy detail about the brain and dendrites and neuroplasticity, and I could talk on and on about all this stuff. I would also recommend this book, Super Brain by Deepak Chopra. Really good if you're into brain nerdy reading. It's like one of my favorites. And yeah, I think one of the things that came up in How God Changes Your Brain for me that was just fascinating was the fact that it essentially, I read it a long time ago, so I'm forgetting some of the details, but in deeply spiritual people, like this quote about, meditation and other spiritual practices permanently strengthen neural functioning in specific parts of the brain that aid in lowering anxiety, depression, enhancing social awareness and empathy, and improving cognitive function. So basically what they found is, and they put this analogy in there that I would love to discuss with you guys, because I'm having a lot of thoughts about it. They compared deeply spiritual brains to the brains of people who have schizophrenia. And what they found was that the area, I know Chelsea's the left brain hippie, and there's a lot of talk about right and left brains. And that's incredibly important in the woo community, because your right brain is more of your spiritual creative brain, your left brain being your more analytical type of brain. And if you're into that left brain, right brain stuff, I would really recommend The Stroke of Insight. It's a book, or you could watch a TED Talk about it. It's a neurologist who had a stroke on her left side of her brain, and she experienced this like spiritual awakening, because with the left side of the brain taken out and only the right brain being active, you can just be like super spiritual. And people forget to nurture this side of their brain too. They get very like, part A, part B, part C. No time for just playing and being creative, which is what the right brain is all about. So keeping that balance is also really important for brain health. So back to the schizophrenia. And basically what they found is they compared these brains of people who have schizophrenia to people who are deeply spiritual, monks, priests, that kind of thing. And they found that areas of the brain that were enlarged in schizophrenics on the left side of the brain were enlarged on the right side of the brain in deeply spiritual people, and vice versa. So if people with schizophrenia had, I can't remember the details off the top of my head, but it was essentially saying that the deeply spiritual people's brains are wired in a way that is opposite to the brains of people who have schizophrenia. And to me, that was fascinating because I think sometimes when you go off on this like woo-woo journey, people can kind of think you're delusional and you get, caught in that sensation of, is any of this real? Is any of this real? But if you think about that one fact, and if schizophrenia is characterized by true delusion, where you are not in reality at certain times when you are having delusions or hallucinations, then if the brain was rewired opposite of that, you would think then that would be wired deeply in reality, if you're making that comparison. So I'd love to hear your guys' comments on that and thoughts on that, because it was something that I thought, wow. Like, I think sometimes we feel delusional being super woo-woo, but the brain science says no, is what I interpret it as. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And if anyone ever wants to talk nerdy neurobiology, I am always down to talk. All right, thanks for listening, guys.